Hello and welcome to Gareth Icke tonight. In some rare but welcome news, the British economy was given a boost in the last few days as popcorn sales have skyrocketed across the nation. This can only mean one thing. The much-awaited COVID inquiry theatre show was in town and the crowd were not to be disappointed. Lessons must be learned from the intentional societal closure, livelihood destruction and mass pharmaceutical needling of the masses. But what would those lessons be? You can cut the atmosphere with a PCR test. I mean, it's all very exciting and all that, and I do love me a theatrical production. I was once a drama student after all, but there is this little part of me that feels somewhat uncomfortable with the establishment marking their own homework. I get the impression that letting someone grade their own project would be, let's say, leaving the result open to manipulation. But then if that were the case, you would expect the UK government to give itself an A star, wouldn't you? We've conducted an inquiry and we've concluded that faced with an unprecedented threat, our government and its institutions' actions were exemplary. Well done all, hip hip hooray. Case closed, pay rises and book deals all around. Let's go to Nando's. But I'm not sure that kind of blatant whitewash would whitewash with the masses, especially those that lost loved ones and had their lives irreparably damaged in one form or another. So you've got to give them something. You've got to admit some errors and some could have done betters to satisfy the public. Maybe even throw them the heads of some low-level political fruit to really, make it look like whilst you have indeed marked your own school book, you've done it with honesty and integrity. Because no one does honesty and integrity quite like the parasite class. But why just leave it at that? Why not, here we go, why not just flip the tables in your favour? See, if you'd whitewashed the inquiry and said everything was great, then at best, if you did manage to get that past the masses and get them to accept that whitewashed result, then you'd be leaving yourself open and free to implement similar lockdown measures in the future. You'd have set a precedent for manufactured pandemics of tomorrow, and that's cool, I guess. I mean, it's certainly better than your inquiry finding that lockdowns and mandates were an absolute disaster and did so much more harm than good, even if you believe the official COVID narrative, which of course I don't. Because if they had admitted what their draconian impositions did, then they'd be taking them off the table for further down the road. When the next manufactured crisis, whether it be a pandemic, mass terrorism, war with Russia, climate catastrophe, civil unrest, whatever, comes along and you attempt to impose a lockdown again, you'd be pointed straight back to the result of your own inquiry. Remember, you did this before, mate. You found out it was an absolute catastrophe. Yeah, that would make for quite an awkward conversation, wouldn't it? So you don't want to do that. And you don't even need to give yourself an A star, as tempting as that may be, because you know that you've got an opportunity to make the situation work in your favour. And not only lay the groundwork for similar lockdowns in the future, but instead, you say you should have locked down harder, locked down even faster, and if you had, you'd have saved 23,000 lives. Now this builds the foundations on which you can stack the justification for even harsher, more draconian, life-destroying lockdowns in the future. And that's a great idea. And do you know what the really, really great part is? You're going to love this. You don't even need to provide any evidence whatsoever for any of your findings, because you simply use a computer model to give you the answers that you want to project as fact. And do you know what the really, really, really great part is? You'll absolutely love this, honestly. You can get the same team from University College London that released the beyond absurd and serial debunked COVID computer models from back in 2020 to provide the models that you can now use in your inquiry. You know, the 2020 models that terrified the population into complying with lockdowns in the first place. The computer models that told us if we didn't do as we were told by Gollum and his mate, then we were all going to kill each other. The models that were developed by Professor Neil Ferguson that clearly petrified him so much that he repeatedly broke lockdown rules to have an affair with his climate change pushing bit on the side. Isn't it amazing that with the level of gaslighting going on right now, some people still manage to keep themselves in the dark? The COVID inquiry was never going to be a real inquiry. It's been nothing more than a perception manipulation operation that ignored real-life testimony and evidence and instead relied on farcical computer models that gave them the findings they wanted the models to find. Because that's the thing about computer models, you see. If you put bullshit in, then you're guaranteed to get bullshit out. And once you have the bullshit you so desperately want, you can always rely on the mainstream media bobbleheads and well-groomed lapdogs to spray that bullshit all over the masses. Just don't tell them it's bullshit that's raining down on them. Tell them it's global manuring.